Now look, any power tool that screams like a banshee, spits out copious amounts of sawdust, I prefer to call it man glitter, and has a razor sharp blade that spins at a terrifying 10 to 24,000 revs per minute, which can be a little scary for the novice, beginner woodworker or handyman, and for very good reason. Because if not used correctly, they can inflict a nasty injury, which is the last thing that we want. G'day folks, Uncle Knackers here, and in today's confidence building beginners tutorial, we'll be looking at one of the handiest tools in the workshop, the handheld router. Now before we get too excited and start using the router, I think a quick router anatomy lesson might be in order. As you can see, we have two types of router. Now this little fella is an absolute ripper. I love it, and I think it's the perfect choice for the beginner or even the more experienced woodworker. It's a lightweight, battery operated laminate trimmer. Now as the name suggests, this machine is designed for trimming laminates, like cleaning up the laminate edge on a kitchen countertop, but it can also be used for smaller general routing work, and it's the smaller, lighter version of the router, which is this beast here that does everything that a laminate trimmer does, but has a larger, more powerful motor capable of taking a larger shank bit for bigger jobs that might require a bit more grunt. Now basically the router is a pretty simple tool. Now if I turn the machine over, this is the base plate that sits nice and flat on the piece of wood that you're working on, and this is the business end. This is where you'll find the cutter or the router bit that spins extremely quickly to cut the wood, so to avoid a nasty accident, make sure you keep your fingers well clear of that at all times. Remember the carrot? And just be aware that whenever you're in the process of changing a cutter or router bit, to avoid a potential accident, make sure the machine is not plugged in. And if the router runs on batteries, that the battery is removed. Speaking about power cords, is it just me, or does everybody else have somebody sneak into their workshop late at night and bend in all the blades on their power cords? Let me know down below. Righto, moving right along, if I take the base plate off, which on my machine is as simple as doing that, love it, we have the collet, which is a steel sleeve that holds the router bit in the router. Now, more on this later, as it's a very important part, and it's a couple of essential things that you need to know about it. Now, all routers, whether they're big or small, have a feature called a depth gauge, which is this thing here, which allows you to alter the depth of your cut. Now, like all machines, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that we have a start and a stop button. But there's one very important safety issue you need to be aware of before you turn one of these machines on. Now, the stop-start mechanism on my laminate trimmer is particularly good because it's a two-step process. First of all, we need to unlock the machine by pressing that button there, which will then activate the power button. And that means that you can't accidentally start the machine, which is a really scary thing to do. I can push that power button, that one there, all day long till the cows come home and nothing's going to happen. Speaking about cows, did you hear the one about the two cows grazing away in the paddock? One cow turns to the other and he says, "Have you heard about this mad cow disease thing going around? It's pretty scary stuff." The other cow nods his head, chews his cud thoughtfully, and he says, "Yeah, I heard somebody the other day talking about mad cow's disease. It's pretty concerning, isn't it? Good thing it doesn't affect us ducks." But once the machine is unlocked by pressing that unlocking button, the light comes on down below, and then all you need to do is to press the start button, this one here, and you're good to go. Now on the other hand, if you have an older router, like I have here, most likely it'll come with a stock standard off-on switch. And if that's the case, before you plug the machine in, do a double check and make sure the switch is turned off to avoid it starting while you're not fully in control. Now trust me, you don't want that to happen, but just in case it accidentally does, put it this way, you may need a change of underwear. Okay, having covered the basic anatomy of the router, let's now have a look at one of the most common questions, which is how to change a router bit. Now with the smaller laminate trimmer, the first thing we need to do for safety reasons is remove that battery, like that. We don't want any unnecessary accidents, and then remove the base plate for easier access to the locking nut and the collet. Now to insert or change a router bit, you need to lock that shaft in place and stop it from spinning. And to help you do that, all machines will come with a couple of spanners. One will lock onto the shaft and hold it in place, whilst the other one, by turning it anti-clockwise, will loosen the nut, and by turning it clockwise, it'll tighten the nut. Now a really cool feature that some of these smaller laminate trimmers have is that they have the ability to be able to lock that shaft by simply engaging a lever on the side over here. So if you watch this, when I press this button, a lever comes out and hits up against the shaft. So all you need to do is to line that hole up with our lever, engage it, that'll lock the shaft in place, and then just simply with your wrench or spanner, loosen or tighten that nut, and you're good to go. And that will do away with the need for having two spanners. How cool's that? Now to install a router bit, it's really easy. Just make sure that the locking nut is nice and loose, like it is there, and then insert the router bit all the way in, just like that, and then bring it back about 1/8 of an inch. This allows the collet, which is this cone-shaped steel sleeve here that has splits in it, to fully tighten around the bit. And then, as I showed you earlier, lock off that shaft and then tighten that locking nut with your hands and finish it off with your wrench or spanner in a clockwise direction, and you're done. It's as simple as that. And to remove the bit, do the same thing. Lock off that shaft and then loosen that nut in an anti-clockwise direction, just like that. Remove the bit and Bob's your uncle. Too easy. Since we're talking about router bits and collets, there's a couple of important things you need to know before going out and buying your brand spanking new router bit. Now as you can see here, router bits come in two different sizes, being 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch, and that relates to the size of the diameter of the shaft on the bit. This one here is a 1/4 inch bit, and the larger one is a 1/2 inch bit. Now as we discussed earlier, the router bit fits inside the collet just like that, but you need to be aware that different size routers have different size collets. Now the smaller laminate type trimmers have a 1/4 inch collet, so they take a 1/4 inch bit, while the larger, more powerful machines have a 1/2 inch collet, so they take a 1/2 inch bit. But they can also accept a 1/4 inch bit by inserting a 1/4 inch collet, which just slides in like that, followed by the 1/4 inch bit, which makes the machine a little more versatile. When it finally comes time to actually use the router, it's important to know which direction to operate it. Do you push it or do you drag it? Well, basically, we have two options. With the first one being the push cut, which is perfect for the beginner as you have more control over your router. Now just imagine the cutter spinning in a clockwise rotation. We want to move the router against that, so we push it in that direction. Now the second one is the climb cut, and this is for the more experienced woodworker. And once again, imagine the cutter spinning in a clockwise rotation. We want to move the router with that rotation. Now with this method, you have less control over your router, but you can potentially end up with a smoother finish. Now because this is a beginner's tutorial, we'll be using the push cut method, and if you follow this simple principle, you'll be cutting like a pro in no time. Remember this when using the push cut method and you'll be as good as gold. Whenever you're cutting an outside perimeter, like the outside edge of a picture frame, move the router in an anti-clockwise direction, and then when you move to the inside, move the router in a clockwise direction. Now if you do that, you'll have more control over your router and you'll end up with a better finish. Now I can hear you all say, well, that's great information, but how do you actually start a cut? Good question, but one very important safety tip first. Hearing and eye protection is a must when using these machines, so play at your own peril if you ignore that warning. Just saying. So when making your cut, what you want to do is to have the router bit or the cutter clear of the wood, and then start the router, wait till it hits top speed, and then slowly enter into the cut and then move at a steady, consistent pace. Don't race or you'll lose control of the router, and don't go too slow as that will tend to leave a burn mark on the wood, especially if you use cheaper bits, which I tend to do. And remember, when you finish the cut, wait till the bit stops spinning completely before you lay it back on the bench. Now just very quickly, I have to mention how good this non-slip matting is for doing routing work, as it stops your project from moving around during the routing process. Great tip, knackers! Now if you want to see more videos just like that one, make sure you check out my Power Tools for Beginners playlist, which should be popping up over there anytime soon. Hope to see you there shortly. Alrighty, after all that, I'm off for a cup of tea. So till next time, be good, be safe, and I'm out of here. Cheers.